Does everything have a bright side to it? Of course. Doesn't always outweigh the negatives, but everything has a bright side to it. This makes happiness a choice. And here we say that the discipline of being happy is the ultimate discipline. With that said, welcome to the Ultimate Discipline Podcast, where we meet with people who are practitioners of this exact discipline, and we hear their cool stories of cultivating happiness through challenges in their life. I am your host, Sean Greenspan. Let's get to it.
Yo, what is up, everybody? I am stoked to have Michael on the podcast today. I got introduced by Michael from some mutual friends. We also get to work together, which already made us closer because, Michael, I don't know if you know this, my definition of a friend is someone that you've been in multiple arenas of life with, right? It's like, I look at my brother, I'm like, I've gotten hammered with my brother. I've worked out with my brother. I've cried with my brother. I'm like, that's my dude, right? And the fact that we've had a chance to have chats like this, work together, work out together, do breath work at Running Man. I like the dynamic of the relationship. Michael owns a company called Kreatures of Habit, which already, just in the title, you guys know, aligns with the happiness discipline. And this one's been on the books for a while. I've been looking forward to this. So, Mike, I'm so happy to have you, and I'd love for you to share a little bit about your backstory.
Yeah, man, I'm stoked to be on here as well. Thanks so much for having me, Sean. We have definitely, and most recently, we've had a couple of days where I got super vulnerable and had one of the most unbelievable experiences like I've had to date with the breath work that you and I both did together down at Running Man, which I'm eternally grateful for, and I can't wait to link up with Gazo to continue that journey. But yeah, I grew up in New York City. I'm a New York City dude. Hold on one second. I feel like I hear my kids. Oh gosh, they're right outside. All right, I hope they don't bust in here. But I grew up in New York City, and I'm an entrepreneur. I've been thinking entrepreneurially for as long as I can remember. I was selling my toys in front of my apartment building on 87th Street between 1st and 2nd Avenue from like 5 years old till I was 8. I would beg my sister, and then as soon as I was able to go walk dogs, I was walking dogs. And from 8 to 12, I had a dog walking business, or 8 to 11, I had a dog walking business where I was walking 30 to 40 dogs a day after school. I was a obsessed card collector, comic book collector, trader. I've always thought about how can I make, do, create, and connect with humans at scale. And I didn't put that together until obviously later on in my life that was what I was doing. But that was what I was doing. I think if I had to describe myself as a person, what motivates me most is human beings, connecting with human beings.
Yeah.
I really believe that is what excites me most about life. And then behind that, I'm just a hunter. I'm a hunter at my core. I love lifting up rocks. I'm a discovery junkie. I just want to know shit. I want to find out cool things. I want to figure things out. I love taking a risk, and I think that's what makes me a great entrepreneur, quite frankly. I'm also a father and a husband, and those are the two things that I cherish most about life, that I have now figured out a balance between my business life, which I had a hard time balancing for a while. For a while, it was like really challenging to figure out that balance because I wanted to, and I want to be successful in everything I do. And now my definition of success is definitely different than what it was when I was 28, when I started my first company. But I still want to be successful. However, today I know that there is a balance, and I think the happiness discipline is a great sort of foundation for this balance that I've created now. It's 4:25 in the afternoon, Eastern Standard Time in New York. In 1 hour from now, an hour and 5 minutes, I will be done with work for the day. I will close my computer. I will take my phone and put it into airplane mode. And I will not look at my computer for the rest of the night. And I will only turn my phone back on airplane mode at 8:30, from 8:30 to 9:30, basically. And that's just to see if there's anything that's a dire need for me to address. But that is a boundary, a hard and fast boundary that has given me this happiness component where I am, yes, the CEO and founder of the company that I founded and run, but the company does not own me. It doesn't. I own it. And it took me a long time to figure that out. So anyway, back to my story. I grew up in New York City. I worked in restaurants. I got a job in a restaurant when I was 12 years old. I fell in love with the restaurant business because I was able to really connect with a lot of people. And I worked in the back of the house, and then I worked in the front of the house. I basically worked every position in a restaurant. And then when I was 28 years old, I decided that, I put in enough time. I put in 15 years of battle. I'd gone to culinary school. I got a degree in culinary arts and restaurant management. And I said, this is it. Like, what am I going to do? I love this industry. I love the business. I'm really good at it. I'm going to go and open up my own restaurant. And sure enough, I was able to figure out how to do it. And, I right before we hopped on this podcast, you had talked about the law of attraction. And the law of attraction is a massive part of my life. I didn't really comment on what you were saying when we were talking about it because I was going to wait to do it on the podcast. But the law of attraction is a massive part of my life. I didn't know that it was until it was. I do what I say I'm going to do as a human being today. That's just the bottom line. If I say something out loud, outside of my own two ears, if I say something out loud, I will do it. I will fight to the death until it's done. That is like what I commit to as a human on the planet, and a father and a husband and a business person. If I say it out loud, and that's why I'm very, very conscious of what passes through my lips, I am going to fucking do it. And what I meditate on in the sauna in the mornings, for the most part, is the plans of what I'm going to let pass through my lips. They're both they work in conjunction with each other for this law of attraction component that I think people think is kind of like a funny, not so real thing. For me, it's a very real thing. It's incredibly real. It's how I've created the life that I live today. I really do live, I've in 2027 Q4, potentially dipping into 2028 Q1, I will sell a percentage of, or the whole company of Kreatures of Habit for $150 to $200 million. And I'll stay on as the CEO, or I'll stay on as the president, and I'll continue to do the thing that I love with this brand, which is bring awesome nutritional habits to humans, across the globe eventually, hopefully at that time. But that's what I'm going to do. So that is done. In my mind, that is done. That's not like hey, I'm going to try. That's done. Now is about just filling in the blanks along the way. That's how I live my life. That's how I stay happy. When, the bank account's scary, I'm like, okay, well, I've already done the thing that is here. Now I'm going to figure out the bank account. I'm going to figure out all the other pieces, because that's what I kind of love to do anyway. I'm walking through life like, all right, where is it? I got to find it. I'm looking. I'm going to find it, no matter how it goes down, it happens. And it always does. I've gotten through every single thing in my life to this very moment. I've gotten through everything, and so have you. And whoever's listening, by the way, you have too. You've gotten through everything in your life, no matter how hard it's been. You've gotten through it. Actually, doesn't mean you didn't fail. Doesn't mean you didn't fall on your face. doesn't mean you didn't make mistakes, doesn't mean you didn't embarrass yourself, doesn't mean you didn't have awesome wins, but you've gotten through everything in life today if you're still breathing, right? So that's the way I see it. And so I launched my first business when I was 28 called the Meatball Shop in New York City. Took off like crazy, wild success. Opened up five more of them. We had 6 restaurants. I decided that I wanted to see if I had what it took to open up a second restaurant concept in 2015. So I opened up Meatball Shop in 2010. Seymour's I opened up in 2015, a sustainable seafood restaurant. And the same thing happened. I opened up a dope fish taco, fish sandwich, simply grilled fish restaurant, and opened up 5 more of those. And in 2019, I sold a bunch of equity at Seymour's to create Creatures of Habit, which was initially going to be a wellness restaurant. I really wanted to open up a wellness restaurant. And then after opening up 14 restaurants over the course of my restaurant career, I decided that I didn't want to scale restaurants anymore. I wanted to get into another industry, which is the industry that I'm in now, which is consumer packaged goods. But I wanted to use the restaurant as an incubator for the CPG business. And this is in early 2020. This was the plan. And I had investors lined up, and we were going to open up a restaurant in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. I was about to sign a lease, and then boom, we all know what happened, March of 2020. The whole entire plan essentially hit a wall. And nobody, including myself, was going to invest capital into a brick and mortar business in New York City at that time. So my wife and I and our 2 kids in 2020 moved to our upstate house, which is where I am right now in the garage. And I had to think about my career. I had to rethink my whole entire plan as a provider, and as a fulfilled person. And it was terrifying for me at first, because I never thought that there was going to be a moment where I wasn't going to be in the restaurant business, because I was a restaurateur and I was good at it, and so I started doing these runs up here, and I intentionally would run without music or podcasts, no headphones, and I just kind of went out with a pad and paper, and in my Wallaco tights, and slipped a little pad and paper in the awesome pockets in those tights. I love those fucking pants. And I would go for a run, and I would just sort of, running inspires the crap out of me in so many ways. I built Meatball Shop on runs. I built Seymour's on runs, and I said, I'm going to build my next thing on runs. And I also hired an executive coach, because this was like a big departure from the restaurant world. I really didn't know. I knew that I wanted to be in CPG, but I didn't know I was going to use the restaurant to help us figure out what that line of product was going to be. I didn't have a vision of what the product was going to be. And so I went on these runs, and eventually, I just came up with the idea that the meal that I've been eating as my first meal of the day, every single day, since I got sober in 2004, was what I should do, because it's like the most authentic thing to me. I've been eating the same exact thing every day as my meal one, as my first meal. It always is satisfying, always delicious, super satiating, and like massive symbol of success for me. And I'll tell you why. And you can tell me to shut up if I'm rambling too much, but I figured I'd just give you the whole shebang. But when I got sober, so I was really I was in a very bad way. I was addicted to heroin, and I was an alcoholic, and I drank and did whatever drugs were around, but ultimately heroin was what it became for me. And I overdosed in the summer of 2004. And I thought that was going to be the end of it. I was like, okay, you've like, dude, you're going to die. This is what you've got. You've been way off the deep end for years, but now you're like, you almost died, and you got to figure this out. And I found myself that night, because that happened during the day. I found myself that night doing the exact same thing about 4 hours later. Like, I swore to God that I would never do it again. Walking west on 13th Street between Avenue A or B and C, walking west back to my apartment. And I said, you're never going to do this again. And then 4 hours later, I was doing heroin again. And so I'd made a decision that night to die. I was like, okay, this is it. You got no control here. You don't know what to do. You can't stop. And so you might as well just push as hard as you can until it actually kills you, because you don't want to like live this long, miserable death. Anyway, I did that. I spent 2 weeks pushing really hard, not sleeping, staying up for days on end, doing heroin, doing cocaine, smoking crack, drinking booze, doing heroin, smoking crack, like crazy. And then finally, I ended up in my apartment on a Monday morning at 10 o'clock. I had work because I was working as a bartender at that time. And I wanted to kill myself, basically. I thought I was going to do it, and then I blacked out. And I passed out, and I woke up 16 hours later. And that was the last time I ever drank and did drugs. I don't know what happened. I don't know why. I know that God had something to do with it. There was a moment of grace for me there. And I reached out to a friend who I knew was sober and who had a sober boyfriend. Sober boyfriend came and met me. Really cool dude, covered in tattoos, Muay Thai kickboxing guy. I hadn't met him before, but when I met him, I said, this is the kind, I didn't know that sober guys were kind of cool, but, and I was 23. So this guy was able to easily influence me and say, hey, like, you're going to be okay. And he introduced me to fitness and nutrition, man. And he told me to go to a sober meeting. And I went to a sober meeting. And then he said, meet me at this place. And I met him at that place after that sober meeting. And that place was a Muay Thai kickboxing academy. And he was there with another guy named Gavin. And they were both like 10 years older than me. And they said, here's the deal, dude. You're 23. You're good looking. Like, you're going to die. Like, you got a lot to offer. You really do, but you're going to die. If you keep doing what you're doing, I promise you're going to be dead within the year. No doubt. Like, the writing's on the wall. You're going to die. But if you take our suggestions, not only will you be alive within the year, but you'll be thriving. And I didn't believe them. I didn't know what to do. I was just kind of desperate. And they basically wrote out a full plan for me. And they said, here's the plan that we want you to do. We want you to wake up as early as you can in the morning. And we want you to pray first thing. And we don't give a shit if you believe in God or not. It's not about God or Jesus or the Quran or whatever. It's you need to ask for help and you don't know how to. So we're going to ask you to hit your knees every single morning, first thing, and ask God, ask the universe, ask whatever you want it to be for help, to help you stay sober and get through the day. You're going to do that. And then you're going to go into the bathroom. You're going to take a piss. You're going to wash your face. You're going to put on your contacts. You're going to brush your teeth. Probably you haven't done that in a long time. And I was like, you're right. I sleep with my contacts for weeks at a time. I rarely brush my teeth unless I remember it. And so they were like, you got to start doing that. And then they were like, we want you to put on a pair of running sneakers and we want you to go for a run. That run could be 1 block. That run could be 1 mile. It could be 10 miles. But we want you to move your body first thing in the morning. And as soon as you get back from that run, we want you to make a big, huge bowl of oatmeal. And you can add whatever you want to it. And that's going to be what you start your day with. Oatmeal and a cup of coffee. And then you're going to go to a sober meeting. You're going to connect with sober people. And then you're going to meet us at the gym. And we're going to kick your fucking ass. And we're going to teach you how to be a man. And we're going to teach you how to get back up. And we're going to actually beat you up. And we're going to teach you about honesty and dignity and integrity and discipline. And you're going to love it. And we're going to help you come back to life. And then you're going to have chicken and broccoli for lunch. And then you're going to take a nap. You're going to go to work. You're going to have chicken and broccoli for dinner. And you're going to go to bed as early as you can. You're going to get on your knees right before bed. And you're going to thank God for keeping you sober. And then you're going to wake up and you're going to do the exact same thing. And that's what your life is going to be. And we're going to help you do it. And if you can do that, I promise you everything will be good. And I'm here to tell you that they were right. My life is awesome. And I do a lot of those exact same things that those guys taught me from the day one to today. Pretty much all of it. And so that's where Meal One came from, because there was a time in my life where I was really desperate for help and I really had no direction. And these guys taught me that I needed to put something positive into my body as a win. because all the shit that I was putting into my body was a loss, was what losers do on a daily basis, drink and booze. And they needed me to feel like I was ingesting something that was positive for me, that was a win. And that oatmeal became such a way more than just like food for me. It became this like this symbol of success, this symbol of a personal win. And that ultimately grew into like my passion for healthy nutrition, and how can I feed my body things that are going to ultimately help me grow and be a better human being, as opposed to what I was doing for years, which was making me shrink and be a less positive human being, and a shell of a human being, really. And so when I was thinking about what to do for Creatures of Habit, because my life has been about habits, good and bad, the bad ones almost killed me. The good ones have made me the guy I'm standing in front of, today, or you're in front of today. I said, I got to do my oatmeal, man. It's what I've been doing. It was a massive.
That's all you know, right?
Yeah, man. It's been a huge part of my life. And so I said, if I can figure out a way to get all the stuff that I use in this oatmeal, gluten and glyphosate free oats, 30 grams of protein, chia seeds, flax seeds, pumpkin seeds, pink Himalayan salt, vitamin D3, omega 3s, probiotic, digestive enzymes. That was my morning makeup. That was what I had. That's how I made every morning, except the supplements were supplements, and all the other stuff that I would add to my oatmeal. If I could figure out how to make this into a pouch, man, I got a business, and I can tell my story, and I can probably help some people that are struggling with things that I've struggled with. And I spent a year working on it, and here we are, man. 2 years in, Creatures of Habit is everything I'd hoped for and more. And I believe that we're making an impact on a lot of people. I think people really love what we're doing, and it's not just a CPG company. It's it's a company that's saying, hey, like, change is possible. You never know where it's going to come from. It could potentially be a bowl of fucking oatmeal, because it was for me, and you never know, man.
Dude, Michael, thanks for sharing your story, man. I appreciate that. I could tell you've said it a lot, and it still doesn't maybe feel good to relive every moment of it. But I really appreciate that, and I think people that hear it, whether they're in the same situation or whether there's in a rut, it doesn't always have to be the exact same thing. It doesn't have to be addicted to drugs or something. If you're in a rut, it's like, I just admire you for like looking at those habits as like, it's like, how is like eating broccoli going to help me like get off drugs, like create this new life for myself? And like, you just realized you're training yourself, like you're training your new habits. It's eating oatmeal, exercising. These are acts of self-love. It's not the thing, it's the act of self-love. And you are your biggest asset in this world. And if you could continue to pour into yourself, you'll create abundance, right? And I think everyone says so many people want the quick fix. I don't think it's that they want the quick fix. They want the direct fix. They want, like, for every bite of broccoli I eat, I get $100, right? It's like they want to be able to like tie everything together. And it's like, that's just not how things work. It's just about practice.
Well, the way I kind of see it, right, is that like you create this system, you create a foundation and a structure. I kind of correlate it to like building, right? Like if you build a structure on dirt, when it rains, that dirt is going to turn to mud. And soon enough, that structure is going to slide, man. And then over time, it's going to fall or it's going to sink. You know what I'm saying? So like, I kind of see, if I pour the concrete every day, right? Like every day I get an opportunity, man. Like I get an opportunity to wake up. I get an opportunity to smile. I get an opportunity to hug and love my boys. I get an opportunity to pray and meditate and move my body and put good things into my body. Like if those things, I didn't say anything about work. All like personal, I build a structure of personal care and love, right? that is the structure. What happens outside of that isn't going to shake me. I mean, I'm a human. I'm going to have emotions. I mean, I'm going to be scared. I'm going to be, nervous, and I'm going to be fired up, and I'm going to fail. But like, that personal foundation is what confidence is built upon. Period. Done. It's sad when most people, when things start to get really scary and not go their way, they close up. Right? Like, they don't want to go out. They don't want to connect with humans. They want to be alone and quiet and cry and be sad. And in my mind, I'm like, no, like, when things get bad, like, you've got this personal love, care foundation that is not going to make you want to close off. Things get bad, you're going to want to reach out and say, hey, help. Like, I need help. I'm going through a hard time. I want to get out. I want to connect. I want to reach out to as many people as I can to, like, help me be better in this hard time,
Yeah.
And I honestly think that you gain the confidence to be able to do that by taking care of yourself, like, on a daily basis, consistently.
Yeah. Dude, I like that you said gain the confidence to be able to do that, because I'm thinking about, like, our experience in Running Man. It's like, it doesn't, like, I hate to say it this way, but it is natural. Like, dudes don't want to naturally, like, show emotion or show like weakness or things like that. And it's like asking for help or showing emotions like that. That's us actually strength. You know what I mean? It's like because we all have emotions, we all have weaknesses, so it's showing the truth, right? That takes strength and, as you said, like, confidence. And I just, like, I'm even thinking about, I'm reading 2 books right now by the same author, Ryan Holiday. One's called The Obstacle is the Way, and the other one is called, dude, it's so good. And then you probably know, what is it? Ego is the Enemy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so funny. Like, no matter how much you practice going towards the obstacle, like, you naturally don't want to. Like, that is where habits come in. It's like every single day you do what's good for you. And where I think people, like, slip up is when they start to overthink it. Like, why am I doing this? It's like, no, like, set your goals beforehand, then just do them. Right. My best example of that, something that I think is, I would say my best habit is 4:15. I wake up every morning. There's just no debate about that. Couple things that does. One, dude, when it's 7:30 and I know my alarm's going off in 9 hours and 45 minutes, I start to wind down. And my buddy Artie tonight, he's like, do you want to go out to dinner? The truth is, I don't want to go out to dinner. I like to eat a strict habit, so I don't know where we're going to go. I know he's going to want to talk, like, and it's going to be, like, late. I'm happy to have him come here for an early dinner. Like, I'm happy to buy food and cook, but, like, what I mean? No, I don't want to go out to dinner and stay out late on a Monday night, disrupt my week. I got big plans I need to, like, stay locked in for. So it starts to make you prioritize different things in your life. But my only rule is I don't snooze and I wake up when the alarm goes off. That's my only rule. And what happens is, a lot of people, I think, don't have a plan. So if you just say, like, I'm going to set a 4:15 alarm, but if I snooze or whatever, it's okay. It's like, if you leave yourself to make a decision in the moment, you're going to make an emotional decision, which is not going to be, like, at 4:15, when I hear that alarm, if I have the choice to snooze, I will snooze every single time. It's like, it's like, imagine like, if you, like, you run every morning or lift? You run first?
I lift. I'm not doing much running these days.
Oh yeah, you're with your back. So it's like, and you plan your workouts out. It would be like if right before you worked out, like, you had the choice to work out or not. It's like, no, that needs to be planned at, beforehand. Like, because of course, like, who's going to want to, I don't know, working out's fucking hard. It's exhausting. And I always try to just make sure that I'm not making decisions and I'm just following a plan, which, takes a little, like, preparation. And I don't mean, like, a specific, like, workout plan, but just, like, I'm going to wake up and work out, whatever that looks like.
Yeah. I mean, look, I have a very, very strict morning routine that is my ideal morning routine. I mean, unfortunately / fortunately, right now, we just got this amazing little puppy. And I was the one who really wanted the puppy. And so my wife said, you really want the puppy. I'm down. We'll get the puppy, but you're going to be the puppy's dad, especially in the morning. And I was like, okay. And so what does that mean? That means that I can't go downstairs at 5 o'clock and, sit in the sauna and do my red light therapy and stretch and do my cold plunge and meditate and do all the things that I have been doing for years. I can't do those right now. I'm not able to, because I got this like beautiful little dog that I'm giving my energy to from 5 o'clock in the morning until 6:30 when everybody else gets up. And so it's been interesting for me to depart from this like pretty regimented like morning routine. However, I will say that I think it's actually really healthy for me as well, to be able to like take a break from this structure and be able to see that like it's okay that I can take time away from it and find other times throughout the day to fit in a sauna or to fit in a cold plunge, to fit in my meditation, or my red light, and not every day do I get to. But I've got my non-negotiables, which is, my prayers, my push-ups, my stretches every morning, no matter what. I'll do that shit with my puppy, like on my fucking back, because he is on my back most of the time that I'm doing that shit. But, like morning routine, man, it's like one of those things where people like will poo-poo you, oh God, you're one of these regimented morning routine people. And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't work for everybody. For me, I would rather do nothing else. I would rather be in bed at 9 o'clock at night, cozied up next to my wife. She might be watching something on the computer. I typically will not. Like we'll watch either we'll watch something on Netflix from like 8 once the kids are down till 9, and then I like to go upstairs and like get into bed and put on my eye mask and listen to a podcast or something while I pass out in about 30 seconds flat. That's my life. That's what I love to do. That's what makes me feel good. And then every once in a while on the weekends or whatever, like we'll go out and have a blast and go hang out with friends or whatever. But like most of the time, no, I want to try to get at least 7 to 7.5 hours of sleep. Rarely do I get 8. And then I like to like be present in my life. And the best
it sounds like you found a love for the journey. You know what I mean? Like,
look, I think happiness, in my opinion, is not only how we feel, but what is our current perception of the life we're living, right? For me, it doesn't have to do with, like a great example of this. And like it wasn't always this way for me, right? When I was young and I had some success, my early success, like I opened up my 5th restaurant, and I didn't pay myself a lot of money until not a lot of money, but I didn't pay myself a good salary until we had opened up 3 or 4 restaurants. I think I paid myself $60,000 a year, literally. And at that time, my wife was making a lot more money than I was. And then I started actually paying myself like a decent salary. And then when we opened up our 5th restaurant, both Dan and I were able to give ourselves like a nice fat bonus because we had crushed it. And I went out and I bought a gold Rolex. I bought a gold Rolex on the 5th restaurant. And, it's funny. I haven't worn that gold Rolex in 10 years, man. I haven't, I just haven't. And not to say that like I don't like it but like that doesn't make me happy. I've learned that about myself. Fancy car, I got one. I never drive it. Ever. I just don't. Doesn't make me happy. Not something that's going to like change my day. How I feel about myself is typically what will dictate my level of happiness. And so really what I've learned is that if I take care of myself first, which is this early morning time where I'm really self-indulgent, I really focus on myself between prayer and meditation, red light, sauna, cold, stretching, movement, then I go out at 6:15 in the morning and I fucking see my wife and my kids, they're just getting up, and I am so present for them. I am like all in on them from 6:15 to like 8 o'clock, 8:30 until I drop the kids off. And man, like if I could do those two things, really make sure that my cup is full early before they get up, so I'm not sacrificing time with them, and then boom, I am just there and with them and like loving them. Everything else in life is golden, man. I could be like, and people could say, oh, you've had success, and yeah, by the way, like I have. The truth is, right now I've started from scratch again with Creatures of Habit. I have started from scratch. I am not paying myself a lot of money. The company doesn't have a shit ton of money in the bank where we're just able to do a bunch of shit. There is still absolute like massive growth that we need to overcome in order for me to be like, we're gonna make it, But my general happiness in life is like high, dude, high. Because I know that those things that are out of my control, it would be unfair for me to allow those things that are out of my true control to dictate whether I am a happy human or not.
Yeah.
The things in which I can control, it's unfair of me to say that I shouldn't 100% allow those things to dictate my fucking happiness. We all have the opportunity to paint a picture of what our happiness is from the second we wake up in the morning. We all have that. Are you going to smile, or are you going to allow the anxiety to overwhelm you and destroy your day by hitting snooze, by rolling over, by not getting up with intention, by not being kind to others and being self-centered and fear? Like, you can control those things. How you respond, my experience, how I respond to what happens in life is who I am.
Dude.
You know what I'm saying? What is my response to what life is throwing at me? Am I going to allow it to sink? Am I going to allow the things that are out here to penetrate what's here in such a powerful way that it affects how I feel, and then ultimately whether or not I'm happy? That's something I've got to hold myself accountable to. And it's not easy, man. It's not. But at the end of the day, if you really peel back the onion, you do have control over that. We have control over that. We do.
Oh yeah, man. Dude, I'm gonna send you one of the little chapters of this book. I gotta always say it. I'm like you. I have integrity. When I say it, it's gonna happen. I'm writing a book. I don't have the date yet, and I'm okay with that because I don't think I've learned enough as a human being to put the whole book together. But one of them is, I'm calling it the gap. And it's the gap between impulse and reaction and how we can make that gap bigger. And that's kind of like what I hear you trying to focus on. And dude, like that's the thing is, to bring it back to your story when you're walking down the street saying, I'm not going to do this again, then you find yourself doing it again. You were so at that point not a mindful person that when the impulse came to do it, you just reacted and had no gap, right? And that is where I think the beauty of building these habits is like you're building your gap. You know what I mean?
It's so funny you say gap. So the way I think I'm a visual person, and what your gap for me is opening the window. And so for me, if something happens that I don't like, that is making me feel a way that I'm not, that if I was to react on the way I felt would come out wrong and probably get me into trouble. And so when I feel that sometimes, and especially as a now leader my company and the companies that I founded prior to Kreatures, I've literally been in meetings where I've had to close my eyes and take a deep breath in and envision a big window, big window. It's like and I can see it now because it's the same window every time. And it kind of has like this little latch on the bottom, like from like my elementary school, these big, huge windows that my elementary school used to have, big panes, big tall windows. And I will literally throw my finger in the latch and lift it up, and then I will push the window up this way. And I'm envisioning myself doing this. And then I stand back and I kind of like let the breeze hit me. And that is my gap. That's saying, dude, open the fucking window, man. Let some air in and just understand that like you do not need to say or do anything. If the best thing that you can do right this very moment is listen. Listen, be mindful, be self-aware, let the breeze hit you, don't say a word. It's gotten me out of so much shit. It's gotten me, because when I was younger, and I'll finish with this thought, I was younger, this is early day career, I was probably a year and a half into Meatball Shop, we were crushing it, I mean, we were all over the press, we were cooking meatballs on Jay Leno and Today's Show, Good Morning America. It was fucking insane. I thought my shit did not stink. And I'm sitting in a board meeting with an investor of ours who's a really prominent restaurateur globally. And, we're having this meeting and I'm like, talking my shit. And he takes me aside at the end of the meeting and he goes, hey, can I take you out for a quick cup of coffee? And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, oh man, he's going to tell me how awesome I am. I'm like, of course you can. I can't wait. I'm trying to impress this guy. And he sits down with me and he goes, can I be candid with you? And I was like, yeah, of course. He goes, you got to do me a favor. In the next board meeting, shut your fucking mouth and don't say a word. Don't say a fucking word. And I was like, and he's like, yeah, every time you talk, it's a waste of everybody else's time and you put your foot in your mouth. So I'm trying to teach you a lesson here. That's why I'm aggressive with you. Shut your mouth in these meetings. Do not open your mouth. You're getting yourself into trouble. Every time. Everything that you just said in that meeting did not need to be said. And I was like, oh my God. And I like literally wanted to curl into a ball and cry. And it was arguably some of the best advice I'd ever been given, because it made me think about every time now in a group meeting or a setting, like, do I need to say this? Or is this something that just doesn't need to be said? Right? Not that like I'm going to be a doormat or if I feel like I'm something super important, but when I really started to look at it, I would say, geez, like, is this something that I offline with somebody or just not say at all? And I grew so much, because what that ultimately did for me was make me become a far more present leader, because all I was doing at that point was listening. I was just listening to what everybody had to say. I wasn't thinking about what I was going to say. I was like, and so that literally changed my whole entire like vision of being a leader of not only a company, but like at a certain point, I was like kind of like a leader in the New York City restaurant industry. And, and I knew that like I had a lot of employees, and I became so much better at listening to what they had to say. Because that is ultimately, everybody's like gripe with their boss is like, they don't even give a shit what I have to say. They don't even hear me. Like I say shit and it goes into one ear and out the other. I was the opposite, man. I'm like a therapist. Like I'd sit in my office and people would just like come in and out and I just listen to them, And so I just think that like, I love what you said about the mindfulness component, and the awareness component of just like beings in general, right? Like that doesn't just happen. It's hard. It sometimes you have to really fall on your face or get told to shut the fuck up by like somebody that's like big time, because that's what he did for me. And I owe him a lot. We're still great friends, and he's still my partner in a couple of businesses. But he taught me something that day that like I just didn't think I needed to hear, and I did, and it was amazing, and it put a lot of things into perspective for me. I think it's given me an opportunity to be way more vulnerable. way more vulnerable. Like if that hadn't happened, maybe I wouldn't have been able to get to a place where I got to in Running Man.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
thanks for sharing, man. I really appreciate it. I look at these opportunities as people, like it's like your life's work in a podcast. You're just trying to share the best moments you have, and it really is like selfless, right? There's nothing you're gaining from it besides getting to relive it and clarify these thoughts and crystallize them. I couldn't agree more, and I'm just gonna take your advice there, what you said, and instead of adding my flavor to it, I'm gonna let everyone end on Michael's touch right there, because I appreciate that, dude. I know we tried to do this one in person, but I'm so glad that we did it when the timing was right, and it felt good, and I can't wait for this one to come out, because I'm definitely gonna re-listen to it.
thanks so much for having me, brother.
Hell yeah, dude, Mike.
Hey, thank you for watching today's episode. If you got something out of this, it would mean so much if you could just take a second and give us a rating on whatever platform you're watching it on. And it would mean so much to the world if you could just find one person that you think this message resonates with and you can share that with them. Thank you so much for your support. Looking forward to share the next episode with you.